And how does Jellyfin compare when you compare
Well, it doesn't have a
ISO?
cloud component at all. So one of the big issues with Plex is that if your internet goes out, you can't log into Plex, even though the software is running locally, even though the files are local, you can't authenticate. So you can't access Plex.
Right.
Jellyfin is completely self contained and completely local, fully open source compared to Plex, which has a closed core. And Jellyfin, as a consequence, doesn't provide some of the niceties that Plex does, like friend sharing. You have to do this all yourself. User management, you have to do it all yourself. There isn't really an easy way for remote friends and grandparents or whatever to access stuff on your server without opening up ports in your firewall or getting them to use something like Tailscale. There's it's just it's a lot more do it yourself. Like you've got to bring a lot of the pieces of the jigsaw together yourself with Jellyfin, and some of the clients are they're good, but they could be better. They're not quite as polished as Plex, for example. They don't have a Samsung TV client. I mean, I don't know the last time I went to a random TV app store and didn't see a Plex client. With Jellyfin, unfortunately, that's just not the case yet. So
Hmm.
it's look at the business model, and it's with Plex, the business model is monetize the user's data, it looks like. And with Jellyfin, well, it's a free and open source project with no financial incentive, really. They're just a bunch of cool people making cool, like it's the spirit, the true spirit of what open source means.
Yeah, I think where I struggle potentially with open source, and I'm obviously a huge fan of open source, but where I see interface meet open source tends to lack in comparison to something that is funded, i.e., Plex has a phenomenal user interface. They've got apps for every platform. And I think if you lean on open source in that way, because there's no financial incentives, there's going to be some sort of diff between
Yeah.
one, like my NVIDIA Shield version of my application for Plex versus or Jellyfin versus the Apple TV version I also run in the same household, you know. And that's where I'm like, I don't want to lean on open source in that way. I would love it if it was amazing, but who's going to make it amazing? I have no idea. I don't want to sound like a anti open
It
source person.
could be
That's just where
you,
I'm like,
Adam.
was that? No,
It
gosh,
could be
no.
you.
Oh, it would absolutely not be me. I would
PR's
support.
welcome, right? That's the
Oh,
running joke, isn't it?
that is the running joke, and I think that's the beauty and the challenge of open source is that PRs are welcome, and that if you want change, you be the change. And I'm down for that. I would be way down for that if I was younger. If I had,
Mm.
if I didn't, it's not where I would value my time. I would rather exchange a lifetime license fee like I've done with Plex in a way to pay for it versus pay for it with my time simply because